We grew up in the same neighborhood and never left until I moved to college when I was 17. Steve, my ex-best friend, whom was 18 at the time, moved across the street from us. We attended the same high school and took the same bus to school. In the beginning, we saw each other often, but we didn't talk. Then one morning, we were riding on the school bus. I was sitting in front with my sister. Steve normally sits at the back of the bus, while me and my older sister sits on the same seat on the front row of the bus. Steve came and sat right behind us. My sister's girlfriends normally sit there, but they were too polite to ask him to move. The seats are not assigned, but everyone kind of know where everyone is supposed to sit, and his position was at the back. We usually sit in the same position in the school bus. On the second day, Steve sat at the same spot again, behind us. It wasn't hard to notice that he was trying to get the attention of my sister. I remember thinking that the best way to get a girl's attention is not to chase her best friends away. I wasn't the overprotective brother type, and moreover, my sister had a secret boyfriend that she has been hiding from my parents. Her boyfriend was already in college at the time and drives a nice car. My sister was a superficial type, and guys would shower her presents. So I didn't think Steve had a chance. For 2 straight weeks, he sat next to us without uttering a word. He was just listening to our conversation, and according to my sister, he was acting creepy. One day I went to a game store when the Call of Duty came out, and there was an expo. I was a game aficionado back then. There was a video game competition going on, and I saw Steve there. To my surprise, Steve was one of the top players, not just for the local area, but one of the top players in the country. I immediately befriended him, and we started coming to each other's house to play video games. Steve had an older brother that was always in the house, and his parents worked for the city. They didn't have much, but they seemed happy. My parents had better job. My dad was a general manager for a fabrication shop, and my mom was a nurse. When the new game console came out, I was one of the few first people that bought it. Steve couldn't afford it, but no worries. I invited him to my house as soon as my console arrived. The first time he visited my house to play the new game, it was a Friday, and I snuck him into my bedroom, and we played video game till morning. On Saturday morning, my mom knocked on my door to invite me to breakfast, and I told Steve to join her. I still remember the look my sister gave me when Steve was eating with our family at our dining table. It was the look of how dare you invite the creepy guy to our house. I didn't care. At the time, I didn't care at the time because my sister invites her friends to our house all the time. I introduced him to everyone as the neighbor next door. My dad wasn't around, so it was just me, my sister, my younger brother, my mom, and Steve. My dad worked almost all the time, so he wasn't home that morning. During breakfast, I noticed my mom took a liking to Steve. She kept asking him questions, and they were talking about a range of philosophical conversation that I wasn't interested in. I thought she was being polite because that was how my mom was, but still, it was clear that my mom likes him. After breakfast, before he left, my mom told him to come more often. She said that in front of all of us. It sounded innocent enough. I didn't think anything of it. At the time, I was glad my mother liked him, much to the chagrin of my older sister. From that day onward, Steve was coming to our house frequently. I didn't think there was something going on. Back then, I didn't think there was something going on between him and my mom. I just thought my mom liked him because he was a nerd and knowledgeable about politics and philosophical topics, and could carry out a quality conversation like an adult. The first red flag I should have noticed was when we were both playing a game at Steve's house, and his phone kept buzzing with text message and he was ignoring it. He was busy taunting me and wasn't paying attention to his phone. I was losing the game that day, and the vibration was bothering me. So I looked at the screen of his phone and saw the name of the incoming text as Tony's mom. My name is Tony. It's a fake name, of course. Steve and my mom had a good relationship, the type a son's friend have with his mom. So I thought maybe my mom has his number to reach out to him when she couldn't get in touch with me. So when I saw his phone buzzing, I thought maybe my mom was trying to reach out to me. I checked my phone, but I didn't receive any missed call from my mom. It gets even stranger when he picks up his phone and stepped out in the middle of the game. Steve is more of a gamer than I was, so he's not just going to walk out in the middle of a game. He was gone for about 5 minutes and would have stayed longer if I wasn't screaming his name to come back and finish the game. When he came back, I knew who he was on the phone with, but for some reason, I asked him who he was speaking on the phone with, and he said, nobody. I thought maybe my mom was planning a surprise party for me, or she's trying to confirm something that had to do with me. So when my mom came home that evening, I expected her to speak to me about something, but she never did. The following week, Steve came to my house to hang out and play video game, and I noticed that he had lost interest in creeping out my older sister. I noticed that while we were playing a game, he was allowing me to win. His mind wasn't in the game. He keeps picking up his phone and texting someone. Steve is not a popular guy. He's not a cool guy. He's only cool to me because he's good at playing video games. He didn't have any friends, and I have known him long enough to know that people don't normally call or text him. He's not a bad-looking guy per se, but he had a lot of social anxiety. So it was kind of new to me to be witnessing how he was constantly texting on his phone like a teenage girl. When he came to visit me, he would sneak out to somewhere and disappear for hours. I should have realized what was going on, especially when it only happens when my mom was home. I should have known that he always picked to visit me when my mom is home. My mom's schedule is all over the place, but for some reason, he happens to show up at my house a few minutes after or before my mom gets home. Looking back, that was already the time my mom started nagging my dad for the slightest reason. She would complain that he was working too much hours, and then when he takes some time off on weekends for the family to visit places, my mom would cancel and give excuses like my dad should have told her ahead of time, which was BS, because sometime my dad would tell her a week ahead, which should have been enough, but she would complain that it wasn't enough time. It was obvious to me and my sister that she was giving my dad a hard time, and we would call her out on it, but she continued. My dad is a good man, very religious, goes to church every Sunday, friends with everyone, smile all the time, volunteers for Habitats for Humanity, and a man to look up to. He would bend over backwards to make sure things are peaceful at home. He would always use the common phrase, happy wife, happy life. From that age, I came to realize that the phrase was BS. Because what if you have a miserable wife? Then is the family supposed to be miserable forever? My parents began having marriage problems, and I noticed a friction was growing between them. They tried to hide it from us. My mom especially, because she knows that we will always take my dad's side. She started doing things like telling us negative things about our dad and tried to poison us against him. Me and my sibling saw what she was doing from a mile away and called her out on it. But that didn't stop her from attempting repeatedly. When Steve and my sister graduated high school, my sister always wanted to live in California, so she got admitted to Caltech. Steve, on the other hand, wanted to live close to home, so he joined the University of Texas, Austin, which was about 350 miles from home. I wanted to join Steve at the University of Texas as well, after I graduate high school. And when Steve and my sister left, it was lonely around the house. I took extra classes to graduate early so I could join Steve. 2 weeks before I was scheduled to move to college, my dad took me and my younger brother fishing. During the fishing trip, he told me what we had already suspected. He said that he and my mom were growing distance, and he's doing his best to save their marriage for the sake of us. He said that they have already started going to marriage counseling to salvage their relationship. He said he will cut back his hours at work and start spending more time with my mom. He told me that he and my mom were supposed to travel in 2 weeks on a romantic vacation, but it was postponed by a week because they were driving me to school. He said he planned for him and my mom to travel with me to Austin. Fast forward 2 weeks later, my dad changed his mind about coming with me to the trip. Only my mom was going to travel with me. Even my younger brother was supposed to travel with me as well. But somehow my mom convinced them that she should be the only one that would travel with me. She said that it was not wise for almost all the family members to be driving in the same car, which was quite strange to me, but somehow we agreed to it. I would have loved my dad to be the one that was there, but I didn't have any problem having my mom there. Moreover, we have Steve there if we need an extra hand. Mom was supposed to stay at the hotel for 2 days. I was roommate with Steve, so the move was easy. The three of us hanged out and visited several places in Austin till my mom left, so I thought. The following day, I didn't see Steve all through the day. I called his cell phone, but he wouldn't pick up. I thought something was wrong, but I later got distracted with doing something else. Then I called my mom trying to figure out if she had made it home safely, and she said that she went to visit a friend and wouldn't be home till the following day. I thought it was something she thought about in the spawn of the moment, because she didn't talk to me about it before. When my dad called me to check on me that evening, he thought my mom told him that she was staying with me for 3 days. I found it strange that she didn't tell my dad that she was visiting a friend. I thought maybe their relationship wasn't as good as I thought if she wasn't willing to tell him such minute detail. I looked past it until that evening when Steve came back to the apartment. I asked him why he wasn't picking up his phone, and he said that his phone died. When he joined me on the couch, I couldn't help but notice the distinct smell of my mom's perfume on him. It was at that moment that I knew that he was having an affair with my mom. I couldn't just outright ask him because it would be embarrassing if he denies it, and it would strain our friendship if it wasn't true. So I need access to his phone. The following day, when we were walking around campus, I asked him to give me his phone so I could take some pictures because I forgot my phone in the apartment. When he gave me his phone, I took some random pictures and quickly looked through his text messages. On the top was Tony's mom. I didn't have time to scroll through, but I saw text message conversation of both Steve and my mom, exchanging I love yous, and my mom sending Steve the address of the hotel she stayed. I wasn't able to read much of their conversation because I didn't want to arouse suspicion, but from what I saw, it was clear evidence to me that Steve was having an affair with my mom.